Because with the home birth, your birth pool is still right there with all your amniotic fluid in it, and you have to deal with it.
She was like, okay, now stand up next to your bed and squat. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna squat. So I was laying there just waiting for the placenta.
I wanted to weep, and they were like, no, your water didn't break, so just go home.
You're like, no, it's good because you can like take a sip and talk.
That's what I want to do.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Gabrielle and I love thrifting and home decor and God and my friends. And so today I have my friend Emmeline here with me. We met back in college a long time ago, like almost 6 years ago. Oh,
that's crazy.
So we have been at each other's weddings and just like been friends for a really long time. So she has 2 young kids and she did a home birth and chose to go to a birthing center as well. And I know that that's kind of like a hot topic sometimes. And so I've always been so fascinated when she's talked about both, like, oh my gosh, like tell me more. Like, I don't know why. So I thought it would be really interesting today to sit down with her and just ask her some questions about pros and cons of each and just like her own personal experience of both. So that is what we're gonna do. Did you know about home births or like birthing centers growing up? Like, was that a new concept to you? I'm just curious to know your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so growing up, I just always had it in my mind that I would give birth at a hospital because that's what my mom did, you know, and that's just what I thought everybody did. Yeah. And I had heard about, like, later in life, like in high school, I started hearing about home births. I feel like that's kind of when it started to become more of a thing. So yeah, when I got pregnant with Clive, my first son, I started I went to all my appointments there, and then March 2020.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Zoom in.
I was like 6 months pregnant. Still, home birth wasn't really on my radar, but as I got closer to actual labor and delivery, they started telling me things when I would go to my checkup, like, your husband, just be prepared, like, he might not be able to come in with you, or like, you are gonna have to wear a mask while you're in labor. For me at the time, that was really scary because—
it's your first child.
Yes, that's really when I started thinking, what if I just had him at home? I had some friends who had done that. So I reached out to this midwife and she got back to me right away. So I had Clive on July 3rd. So it was like almost just about a month before my due date.
Whoa.
And so that is like really late in the game. Yeah. And I remember having such like a moment of like, I was crying and like trying to decide what I was gonna do. And when I finally made the decision, I'm just gonna do a home birth, Steven was behind me, that's my husband. He was so supportive. And when I finally just made that decision, I felt such peace. And so I knew that that was definitely the right decision for me. This particular midwife, she came to do a couple different home visits. So I didn't really get to know her all that well. And that ended up being kind of a negative because her style is really much more hands-off, much more like just you let your body do its thing. That's something that if anyone's watching this video thinking about doing a home birth, that's something that you might want to know is a lot of home birth midwives, they do tend to be more hands-off. Generally, a lot of people that choose to do a home birth, they want it to be that way. For me, the only reason I didn't want to go to a hospital because I wanted everybody to be there and I didn't want to have to, you know, labor in a mask and everything. When labor started, the summation is I was in labor for like 31 hours, which is very long because the midwife is really only trained to help as the baby's coming out and like right after, you know, to make sure that he's doing okay and everything, because they don't have all of the instruments and the technology to kind of see what's going on or hear what's going on as you're in labor. Because of that, it just took a lot longer than it needed to. Or I wanted to birth in a birth pool.
Did you have one? Like, I don't know how that works. I guess like, did they like bring you the supplies or do you buy them beforehand or like what?
Yeah, so generally I think women do buy their own birth pools. Because it was so late in the game, she was like, I have one if you just want to borrow it. So I just borrowed hers, which was good. I did need to buy a lot of supplies. Like we needed like a bed cover lining thing for our mattress. We needed just some things for the baby, like the clamp for the umbilical cord and stuff like that. So I wanted to birth in the birth pool. That did not go well because for some women, I did not know this about myself because obviously it was my first child.
Right.
That the warmth of the water actually really slows down labor.
Really? So it has to stay warm while you...
Yeah, it has to be really warm because when they come out, it has to be like 96. It has to be like body temperature almost, you know?
I would be roasting.
Yeah. So it was so hot.
Yeah.
I felt like I was suffocating. Yeah. It was just horrible. I'm in so much pain and I'm like pushing as hard as I can. So fast forward to the birth center, that's something I learned not to do until you're like really, really ready to push. Just let your body contract and let your cervix soften and open before you're really ready to push.
Right.
Because I think what ended up happening was, is this like too gross?
No.
Okay.
Spill it all.
I think what ended up happening is my cervix probably got swollen around the edges. And so that was
irritated.
Yeah, because I was pushing and pushing and he was like trying to come through because I'm trying to push him through.
He's like, bruh.
But the cervix was not completely dilated. That caused me to push for literally like 3.5 hours.
Were you in the pool the whole time?
I was in the pool. I was in the pool for like 2 hours and then they were like, this is not working. So we need to mix it up. So I got out of the pool and I labored on the toilet for a little while, which was horrible. My water broke in the pool.
Is that what they suggested for you to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which a lot of women do that. Some women literally have their babies like while they're sitting on the toilet. I mean, they don't go in the toilet, obviously.
I can see like how like sitting like that would help.
Yeah. So after about, I don't know, probably 45 minutes of that, they were like, you know what, let's just move to your bed. So I moved onto my bed. I just gave birth like the typical on your back like they do in the hospital.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. At that point though, I had literally been up for like 30 hours or something. If you can imagine, was so exhausted because that whole time you're pretty much doing like a full body workout for 30 hours.
Did you eat anything?
Not really. They had me drink like this disgusting Gatorade drink. Yeah, it was horrible. Yeah. But I really didn't eat much. I maybe had like a granola bar or something like that. So Steven's literally like holding my legs up and my mom's like holding my arms and I'm just pushing with the last bit of energy that I have. Supposedly, Clive's arm came out first. That was another indication of he was just in a weird position, which also slowed down labor a lot. So right after his arm came out, like he just shot out. The rest of him just shot out. The amount of relief that I felt in that moment, like it's literally, I can't describe it with words because I wanted to weep. I did. I was just weeping. Postpartum is really interesting with the home birth. Right. So I didn't tear at all, which is amazing. So postpartum was so easy. I mean, we had people over like that day and I was like up and walking. I took a shower probably within like an hour.
I literally had so many questions and you just like answered all of them, which is
that's good.
Amazing.
That's good.
So you said that there were like some negative things, like obviously lots of positives, but like a few negatives of like not really knowing your, I get those mixed up, doula and midwife.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people probably do too, like like there's misconceptions about like what their role is and stuff. And honestly, it's really interesting for me to hear you say like they're more hands off because I thought like, oh, when I go to have a kid, I should get a midwife. And I'm like, I think I want someone to be like more involved.
Yeah.
And, like,
I do think
what
you can, and I think they're trained to do both, you know? So if you wanted that, you could express that to them, and I think that they would be more hands-on. But that is also, like, when, like, it's funny you say about the doula, because that is kind of the role of the doula, too, to kind of advocate for your needs, like, emotionally and physically.
One more question I have about this before we move on to the birthing center is, do you feel like she equipped you enough like in those meetings like leading up to it to where you understood fully like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, here's how like everything's gonna function? Or were you kind like, was there anything that took you by surprise, I guess?
I didn't really feel prepared, but I think a lot of it was not all on her. I honestly had the mentality, the less I know, the better. I didn't want to be scared by anybody else's story or video of like watching some birth that's like horrifying to me. I didn't want to like, I didn't want that to scare me. So I just thought, you know what, my body's gonna do what it's gonna do, and I know it's gonna be painful and it's gonna suck at times, but I'll have a baby, you know? Looking back, I don't think that was obviously the right mentality to have. If I would have known things like wait till the very last second to push, I may have only been pushing for, you know, 30 minutes or something.
So shifting gears a little bit, like leading from that into choosing to do a birthing center, like what were a couple of like the driving factors that made you choose to go into a birthing center?
So I knew that I wanted to still do as natural as possible.
Right.
But because of, you know, the experience with the more hands-off midwife, I wanted, you know, a little bit more coaching and a little bit more intentionality with like just help and support. And also at the birth center, they have different things that you can use, like a birth stool, or like there's a thing called like the peanut ball, which I'll talk about, and just really nice facilities. Like they have like really nice showers and stuff. And it's also nice to kind of,
That's so nice.
Yeah. It's also nice just to like have the baby and then go home. Like you leave all of the mess and everything behind, because with the home birth, your birth pool is still right there with all your amniotic fluid in it, and you have to deal with it. Yeah, I just remember our house being like a wreck after Clive was born.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, just to avoid that, the birth center is a great alternative. If you want to do a natural birth, you want to have more options during labor, and you want to have midwives that are more hands-on.
Okay. Did you use the same midwife or a different one, or did they assign you one?
So yeah, the birth center has like it's like 6 or 8 midwives that they have, and you rotate through all of them. And yeah, you don't know which one is going to be on call. Yeah, when you go into labor. So it's interesting because of course you have like your favorites or whatever. And I had the one girl who I thought was like my favorite. I was like, God, please help me get this one. And it's interesting because when I went into labor with Hayden and I called, it was her. And so I was like, oh my word, yay. I didn't actually have Hayden until like 22 hours after that, after like my first contraction.
Right.
And so it was a different midwife. But it was so the Lord, because I loved this midwife. Really? She was so calm. She was so intelligent.
Yeah.
And just, she knew exactly what to do. I went into labor at like 3:30 a.m.
Okay.
That whole day was just, you know, contractions, but not anything terrible. And then, you know, we progressed throughout the day. We went to like Chick-fil-A, I think, and got, and then we came home and like watched a movie. And then I called the midwife again and just asked like, what can I do to kind of like really kick things into gear? Because at this point it had been like 12 hours. They suggested do this thing called the Miles circuit. It's a thing of like different positions that you can put yourself into that help move things along, get the baby in a good position and stuff like that. And then after that, I was like, Steven, I just really think we should go in. Like my contractions were pretty strong. The only thing about the birth center is they will only admit you when you're at least 5 centimeters. We get to the birth center and I'm 5.5 centimeters. So perfect. Yes. Yeah. At this point, when we were admitted, I think it was, gosh, like 8 o'clock or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, or they gave me like some herbs to help like really like get stuff going.
Do you know what it was?
I don't, honestly. Okay. And then they had me do more curb walking just out on their sidewalk in front of the building. I came inside. That's when I started using the peanut ball. And that's basically like, it's a material of an exercise ball, but it's literally shaped like a peanut. And how you use it is you just like put it between your legs. You're like laying on your side and it's between your legs. So one leg is like up around the ball. While I was using the peanut ball, contractions really started ramping up, that's what's supposed to happen. So that was good. And then I had to pee. So went to the bathroom and I peed. And then my water broke on the toilet, which was great.
Right.
It was like really actually like perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to clean that up.
Right.
But there was a lot of blood that came with it too.
Really?
So that really scared me.
That didn't happen with Clive?
No.
Okay.
So it really scared me because it looked like, I felt like it looked like a lot of blood. So after that, she was like, I think it's time for you to push. There's this thing called a birth stool, and it's like shaped like a horseshoe. You sit on it. So basically, you sit on it kind of like with the back of your butt, and your legs are kind of like out, so then the baby can just like come forth. So I was pushing on that for a little while. So she was like, I'm gonna have to check you and just make sure everything's okay. So she checked my cervix, and I was only 9 centimeters. Centimeter of cervix was swollen. And so that's what I was saying I think happened with Clive. And they were like, it's going to be hard, but try not to push. So, yeah. So, and those last, like, several contractions are really bad. And you feel like
you want to push because you want to just like do something about the pain,
Right.
you know? So I did that probably for like another hour. And I was so relaxed, I was like actually able to fall asleep in between contractions.
That's good.
So that's how relaxed I was as compared to
Wow.
Clive's birth. So literally it was like 2 pushes and out comes his head. They were basically like taking him by the head and pulling him out. My mom said she was scared that they were going to hurt him.
I would be.
Yeah, but they just knew that they needed to
gosh,
do
that
that.
would literally scare
and they
me
also,
so bad.
yeah, they also saw the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck. And then after that, he was totally fine. And
Good.
he nursed for literally 2 hours.
Whoa.
That first time. He came out
I'm
hungry.
starving.
Came out really hungry. So the birth center, they want you to eat a full meal before you leave,
Okay.
just to make sure you have energy and everything. And
Right.
they'll help you like shower, which is really great. And recovery with Hayden was even quicker than recovery with Clive.
What?
The max you're allowed to stay at the birth center after the baby is 6 hours.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's just like so different, I guess, than like the norm. So it's like, what?
Yeah. The normal, like, stay for 2 or 3 days at the hospital.
Or
after.
more. It's like
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because the reason that they have these restrictions is because I don't know why. I guess they just want you to go to hospitals because they get more money. I don't know. You know, if there's something wrong after 6 hours, you have to go to the hospital.
Right.
And
Just so that
can't
they're not
just
like
stand there.
legally responsible, I guess.
Exactly.
Were there any cons? Like I know you said like leaving a little bit quicker, but were there any other cons that you can remember, or was it like mostly positive, like from the birthing center, that is?
Really, I didn't have any complaints.
Wow.
I know. And I know that's like,
That's good.
yeah,
That's a good
great.
thing.
It's great. And not everyone's going to have that experience, but
Right.
just for me, I really loved it. I
Right.
loved my midwives. I loved the room that we were in. They make it feel like a bedroom.
That's so nice.
So it's like a queen size bed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They had,
That's bougie.
yeah, they had everything I needed. They gave me snacks.
Wow.
They had water, they had a shower. When you're just feeling like you're basically feeling like almost high or something with all of your.
It's like an out of body.
Yeah, it is. Like all of the hormones are just like pumping,
Yeah.
like all of the good hormones.
Right.
You feel probably better than you would feel like physically, you know,
Right.
if you weren't having that experience.
Right.
So I was like, ding, like bounced right back.
This is a really weird question.
It's okay. Can't get much weirder than we've already been, so.
I actually have 2 more questions. First one is like I see all these supplies that like people use after they give birth in a hospital, as far as like things to wear, like things to like spray and things. Obviously, because if you do have stitches, you're gonna need like dermaplast or
care,
something
yeah.
like that to numb everything going
Yes.
on. My question is like you said it was like a total like so much faster of a recovery even for both of them.
Yeah.
Than it probably would have been if you had gone to a hospital.
Yeah.
But like, did you like need any supplies like that, or were you just like, I'm good? Like, I guess like what was the process like in the weeks following both of them?
Yeah, yeah. For Clive, it was interesting because as I was birthing my placenta,
Yes.
that's what people don't talk about. That was
Right.
horrible. For Clive, especially because I was so tired. And she was
Yeah.
like, okay, now
And you were
stand up
literally
next
in
to your
your
bed and squat. And I was like, no! I'm not gonna squat! Usually the placenta detaches within like 5 minutes of
Okay.
giving birth. But Clive's placenta did not detach for like an hour. So I was laying there just waiting for the placenta. She said, there's some of your placenta that is still attached. And she said, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It'll detach and it'll expel itself naturally. But with that being said, I had to be prepared for that to like see this, you know, like.
Did she give you like a time frame of like when that might happen?
Not really. She was like, maybe she said like within the next few days or week or something like that. So anyway.
So you could just be like any given moment, it's like bam.
Yeah, so they do suggest you wear like Depends. Just like when you're a couple days postpartum, you want to wear Depends and like an overnight pad.
Yeah.
Along with that because you do bleed a lot. But what's interesting is you're technically only supposed to do cold, you know, whatever relief for the first 24 hours. And
Okay.
then it's supposed to be heat only.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't really know exactly why that is, but that's just what
Okay.
I've been told by medical professionals. And I did have to use, you know, like a peri bottle for both, of course.
Right. Like, in summary, what would you say if and when you have another kid, do you think that you will choose to go to a birthing center again?
I've been really going back and forth, honestly, because I feel like now that I have experienced both, since I've had such a good experience at a birth center, I would love to go back and do that.
Right.
But I would like to kind of redeem my
Home birth
experience, you know? And I feel like I could now that I know more about my body.
Right.
And just some different roadblocks that I could face. I would know how to kind of get over those.
And you have like more techniques in your belt to be like, okay, like now I should try this versus before you were like, okay,
I have no
what
idea.
is going on?
Yeah, I was like, can someone stop this pain, please? Yeah, I think with the first one, you're just so caught off guard. Like, what the heck?
Like, this
I've
is
never
terrible.
felt anything like this before.
Yeah. Anyways, cut that out. Not gonna be in this. Anyways, I think that's about all that I wanted to ask you today, but I just want to like say thank you so much for like sharing your experiences of both and like pros and cons, because I know as people decide like which one to pick, or like even if it's years down the road, it's still good to have this information to know like to make an informed decision and to be like, okay, this is what I would want, this is what I wouldn't want to be a part of my birthing experience. And I remember like even in, like I was like 18 like watching videos, I was like, that is so interesting.
Yeah.
So I know that like other people will enjoy what you have to say. So anyways, thanks so much for being in my video.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Okay, well, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.